Adam Sparks from the Tennessean joins us now. Adam, good afternoon. How are you?
Not bad, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty well. Okay, so for those that were not able to see Texas A&M and Vanderbilt on Saturday night, the score surprised a lot of people. What were your big takeaways from the Vanderbilt opener?
Freshman quarterback Ken Seals looked pretty comfortable. Threw the ball fairly well. I mean, 150 yards is not a big number, but he was 20 of 29. He was really good on third down. Vandy's offense controlled the clock, which was a really big surprise since they have a new offensive coordinator. They're going no huddle. They've installed a new offense. The idea is that it would be fast, but it would the worry is that it would have a lot of 3 and outs. They didn't have those issues. Defensively, you hold A&M to 17 points, forced 5 fumbles. A big issue last year were takeaways. Vandy only had 11 turnovers forced all year. They had 3 just in this game. So, new D coordinator, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, and if you had to put about 5 or 6 boxes of big question marks that they didn't do well last year, most of those boxes were checked in this first one. So, a reasonable amount of optimism, I'd say, right now for Vandy after the opener.
Adam, I thought the defensive line was really impressive. I think they graded out higher than any other Power 5 school. And obviously, we know the defensive line coach. He was coaching at LSU a year ago. What's been the biggest change for the defensive line?
I mean, it's not as much of a change. I guess it's one of those old cliches in football, right? If you return experience, you should be better. A lot of times that's wrong. You can get returning starters back and be about the same team. But I think it's worked out well in this one. They got most of their guys back up front. They do have a little bit of NFL talent up there. Dio Odengbo, 6'6", 260-pound defensive end. He's a guy that'll get drafted. He's their defensive end, really athletic, long guy. Andre Mintz, who probably had the best game of anybody on defense up there. He's listed as an outside linebacker, but they end up looking more like a 4-man front than a 3-4 at times because he'll often just be up on the line of scrimmage standing. So he pretty much counts as a defensive end or defensive lineman up there. They were good, just the entire unit up front. One issue that Vandy had last year was that they would have a few flash plays. Odengbo was one of those guys, but they would have a few wow moments of, hey, if they could just do that, for a full 60 minutes, they'd be in good shape. But it was a lot of breakdowns in between. They would have weak links, so to speak, up front. I didn't see weak links on that defensive line in this first game, and that's the first time I can probably say that for about a year and a half. They're just solid up there, and if you don't make mistakes and you tackle well, and the offense doesn't do really a whole lot of good things on the other side, which A&M really struggled to find any kind of rhythm, then you can stay in games, and then you add to that you're popping the ball out for fumbles. It's gonna help even more. A lot of things went well on defense for Vandy in the opener, but I think it was a lot of things that they forced, which you can credit to Vandy's defense, not just A&M struggled.
Adam Sparks from the Tennessean is our guest. Adam, this was a trying summer for everybody trying to get to a football season. How would you rate what Derek Mason did, both on and off the field, to get this team ready and all of the obstacles they had to overcome to do it?
Well, I mean, it's difficult for everybody. Derek happens to be on the campus that I'd say is the most strict. Maybe that's the best word as far as COVID protocol. Vanderbilt, and you can see that on Vandy's campus. All students are tested weekly. To this point, up till a couple days ago, no fans were going to be allowed at home games. That would have been the only school in the conference to follow those protocols. They just changed that slightly to where they're going to have just a handful of students at the game on Saturday. So I just say that anecdotally to say that Vandy was the most strict in terms of protocol, in terms of having anybody near the team, in terms of practice, in terms of off-season workouts. And Derek has done well with it. I mean, I would say we didn't know that really until the opener, and there's 9 more games to judge that. But if you're, he brought in 4 new quarterbacks, lost his 4 quarterbacks, brought in 4 new ones, brought in a new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, installing new schemes on both sides of the ball, had, I think, 6 new assistant coaches. It's not the best year for a pandemic in football if you're putting all new elements in. And from what we saw in the first game, all those new elements turned out to be pretty well. So I'd say that's a compliment to him so far.
Adam, in the game against Texas A&M, the identity of the offense did look a little bit different. It looked like they were trying to do more spread things, more spread concepts. Is that who they want to be offensively?
Yeah, it is. The new offensive coordinator, Todd Fitch, was at Louisiana Tech the last couple of years. And, at La Tech, they spread it out quite a bit, 3 wide, 4 wide, and threw the ball. He's trying to do that here. He doesn't have as much of the personnel that he would need to do it, but it was, so far so good. They had a lot of depleted ranks on their offensive line because of 4 COVID opt-outs and transfers, injuries, all that. Offensive line was pretty good in the opener. I'll be curious to see if they can hold up long term. They overcame that. Were able to get the quarterback out of the pocket quickly, got rid of the ball fast, had a lot of rollouts. He's trying to be creative, Fitch is, with making what he wants to do offensively work with the personnel he's been given. The biggest curiosity I had out of the offense after the first game is this going to be maybe a pass-centric offense more than a run? I mean, that was the hope for Fitch, that he could throw the ball more than run it. But, again, I didn't think he had the personnel of the offensive line to do that. It looks like they're going to go more towards that direction now. They've got some running backs that can run with a little bit of power, but not guys that are going to break a lot of long runs. They do have a little bit of potential, I think, in developing Seals, the freshman quarterback, and they've got a few wide receivers.
Adam Sparks is our guest from the Tennessean. Adam, the Texas A&M perspective on the first game was this, that they piled up nearly 400 yards worth of total offense, and they would have controlled the game had they not lost a turnover battle. And they fumbled 3 times. Actually, they fumbled 6 times and lost 3 of them. And A&M and Vanderbilt did not fumble the ball. They threw 2 interceptions. That A&M would have put somewhere between 30 and 40 points on the board if they don't turn the ball over. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think there's some validity to that. If you take the offensive yards, defensive yards given up, if you take those big stats out of it, you come to kind of some intangible stats: penalties, turnovers, time of possession, third down conversions. Vandy won in every one of those categories. So, on the plus side for Vandy, there's at least a formula to hang around these games. They were very disciplined in all those areas in the first game. If they're that way again, maybe they can hang around LSU. The downside of that is if you're not doing those things, and that's coin toss every game, penalties, turnovers, time of possession, all those things, if you're not hitting all those marks, there's a fine line between hanging around and getting blown out. And they have to do that against LSU. They have to win the turnover margin. They have to be really good on third down. They got a safety on special teams against A&M. I don't suspect they're going to do that in this one, but again, that's another one of those extra categories that you have to win. If Vandy wins in all those areas, then maybe they have a chance. Otherwise, you could see a game that's more like what Vegas is saying, which is about 3 or 4 touchdown win for LSU.
Hey, Adam, I do want to go back to something that you mentioned quickly there. Vanderbilt will be allowing a limited number of students to attend the game on Saturday. I know the word around Baton Rouge was there wasn't going to be any fans, but it looks like Tennessee got into another phase where they're going to allow not only students at Vanderbilt games, but also 10% at Titans games. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the Titans now have
another situation.
Some COVID cases. COVID cases on the roster, so now that game's going to be postponed by a day or two. But Nashville moved to its next phase 3. So it's opened up a little bit more. It has obviously the largest population of any SEC city, so it has been more restrictive here. From what we've been told, the students that get first dibs are senior undergraduates, and that may be all that's there. The enrollment's pretty small at Vandy anyway, so that could be 1,000 students there, that could be 300 or 400. Vandy has been criticized for years that its students will show up at the beginning of a game and then be gone by halftime. If that happens in this one, it's going to be pretty embarrassing because they're the only people allowed in the stadium. But, we'll see. I suppose the score will dictate that.
Adam, we appreciate your time. Thanks a lot for spending a few minutes with us, and we'll talk to you after the game.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.